We're on episode 10. 10
Wow.
episodes. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, happy St. Patty's Day.
I can smell some corned beef and cabbage cooking in the house, in fact.
Do you guys actually do that?
For some weird reason, my mom has always liked to do that, even though she is not Irish in the slightest.
No.
Although the Wheeler side probably is. But it's I don't know. And she says none of my sisters do it either, and I'm like, well, they don't know why you do it.
Why would they?
But it's once a year special meal, just because.
Yeah. A
Okay.
buddy of mine took a uncooked brisket, brined it for 10 days, took it out, dried it off, and then boiled it. So he made
He
went the
made
whole
his
hog on
own corned beef. He corned
He
that
sure did.
sucker.
that.
Oh, brother, a large part of my notes is just that I went to see Blue Velvet last week.
Oh, neat. I haven't seen that in forever.
Yeah, and it was reminding me of the first time I saw it. And so it came out theatrically in '86. So about 6 months later, or a year later, I remember kind of some of the older kids in a grade ahead of me said, "Hey, we're going to rent this weird movie we've heard about," and it was genuinely. I found it a difficult watch. I'd watched a lot of movies, but they weren't like this. However, now, from my perspective now, and having seen all but one of his movies, it's a fairly straightforward movie, story-wise. There are good guys and bad guys, and the bad guys get their just desserts in the end. A good guy sort of falls off his normal track and ends up in this weird underground meeting all these terrible people. But it's pretty much as straightforward and simple as that. First he's just curious, then he feels like a powerful erotic attraction to Isabella Rossellini, and then he's sort of done for. He's farther and farther and farther, and eventually meets, Frank, Dennis Hopper. And the movie is just as simple as, like, even in a quiet little North Carolina small town, there's a Frank. There's scumbags doing stuff just under the surface. If you fall a little bit off the track, there's weird things going on in Austin right now. Instead of a nice St. Patrick's Day party like you're going to, you went to the wrong house. There'd be a bunch of weirdos up to stuff. And it's just that when you're 16, it's especially disturbing because you don't know. Because Frank is very dementedly evil. And shocking with this violent temper. And then he's got these sexual perversions going on too. And his weird huffy drug thing.
Yeah, the huffing thing.
And he's so intense with it. And I recently saw that there's a entertainment video archive. Like, they specifically interviewed people from the entertainment business to put it as a video archive. And Dennis Hopper was being interviewed about playing Frank. And this was when he had just cleaned up his act after years of really being a drug addict. And he's like, and you want me to play a drug addict? Okay. But David Lynch, even though he had written this character and written this movie, didn't actually know a lot about the drug scene. And was actually going to have it be helium. So every time Frank huffed, his voice would go up and hit me. And it would be very surreal and disturbing in a David Lynchian way. Especially because the first time he does it, he starts saying, "Mommy, Mommy," and it would be this little tiny voice. And I think it could. And so Hopper was saying, like, actually, now I convinced him it should be something more like amyl nitrate or some kind of thing that you really get crazed on it. And he's like, "Gee, what's that?" And he had to explain to him what it was. But looking back on it after like 15 years later, he's like, actually, maybe I should have done the helium voice thing. That might have been really freaky. And when I was watching the movie, I was trying to imagine every time, like for the first minute or 30 seconds after he huffs, if his voice actually did do that, like what that would sound like. I'm like, it would almost work, but probably it's better that he didn't do that. But it was, and there were some weird parties I went to when clearly I was the only one there who didn't really belong there. And that's an uneasy feeling anyway. it didn't get beat up by a guy, but it's weird. And if you're, and you're trying to, experiment and broaden your horizons, and so you end up in these places. And, back then it was like, if I was so unfortunate as to say yes, if someone said, hey, you want to smoke this and calm you down, instead, freaky paranoia. So someone laughing, ha ha ha, suddenly that's freaky. Someone not laughing, that's freaky. What are they talking about? Why am I here? I don't know anyone. What's going to happen next? Not a fun night, but I'm like watching this movie going, that's sort of he captured a vibe there. I've experienced something like this. This is the first time I ever, because I probably have never seen it in a theater before, that Kyle MacLachlan's character has an earring, which is the only non-standard thing about. It's normal now. In 1986, it was not that normal, especially since he's just supposed to be the normal kid.
It was a sign of his rebellion.
Yeah, there is something, and there's also a couple of scenes in his bedroom, and there's something weird hanging on the wall, and I couldn't figure out what it was. Meant to look that up, didn't do that. The movie's main point is he asks, why are there men like Frank? But the answer is, we don't know, but they are. And be careful. And there's nothing really surreal in the movie, except there is one weird jump cut where Frank disappears from the frame, like a George Méliès disappearance. He's in the middle of saying, I'll screw anything that moves, ha ha ha, and then he just disappears. And then it cuts to another.
I don't remember that.
No, but it's really unsettling. There's a lot of lead up to the most dangerous night of the movie, which is where this happens, with these dark curtains kind of blowing, like it's coming as an ill wind, and Frank gives this weird monologue to Kyle MacLachlan before beating the S out of him, where he says, "You're really lucky. Like, this is just the right night where I'm not going to kill you, but I am going to beat you up." But this is and then MacLachlan wakes up in his bed and just sobs, like, this is all, I made these choices to end up here. And then he has he goes to the nice girl, Laura Dern, who is
Laura Dern,
the picture of innocence. There's nothing surreal or weird about her.
They're both extremely young.
They're both extremely young. And they go on, and she's still in high school, and they go to a high school party, and they have a dance, and they have a little kiss, and it's like, normal life. And then Isabella Rossellini staggers stark naked out of her mind and goes, "Help me, Jeffrey, help me." And Laura Dern gives this look of just horror and disgust. And she has this really articulate mouth where it can form this absolute extreme shape. And it was funny watching it with an audience. It was a full theater watching this. Because he wants to kind of get Isabella Rossellini to calm down without revealing that he's been having an intense sexual relationship with her just as of yesterday, because he's with Laura Dern now. But then she starts rambling and he put his disease in me and Jeffrey help. And the whole audience gave this laugh of, oh, he's so busted. He's not going to be able to explain his way out of this one. He's, in a sense, wrecked his chances of having a nice, sweet girlfriend like Laura Dern because he's been in this world and it's still got its, touches on him. But fairly straightforward compared to Lost Highway or something like that.
Or Mulholland Drive.
Or Mulholland Drive. Those movies are real messed up and dreamlike. This is not. Although it has touches.
Yeah, in fact, I couldn't figure out with Mulholland Drive, did that really happen or not?
It really happened, but which woman did it happen to? I think... of course, which woman is Naomi Watts? Because she seems to be at least two different ones. I think ultimately that is a story of young blonde ingenue comes to Hollywood and eventually excess, drugs, dies in her own bed, is discovered by some weirdo in a cowboy hat. Time to wake up, darling. Ooh. But and maybe the brunette never actually existed, or it's
Yeah, because uh, she seems to be the main character at first,
right.
and then this new girl comes in that she takes under her wing and kind of supplants her.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the plot of the
Even
movie,
in the plot of the movie, yes,
very weird.
it's very weird. I find that movie very compelling. The It all leads up to this woman singing a Roy Orbison song in Spanish, and it's just utterly mesmerizing. And they're like crying while watching her sing this. It's funny because there's similar things in Blue Velvet. There's a Roy Orbison song used to haunting effect instead of. It's one of his, it's actually a cheerful song, but in the movie, it's really disturbing. And Dennis Hopper is always like, whenever someone is playing one of the songs he likes, either Blue Velvet or In Dreams, he almost gets teary eyed, and he's just rapt. But also the Blue Velvet is also part of his like twisted sexual gig, where he has to use it to like I don't know. So it's
To get aroused, yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, because she sings the song, right? Doesn't Isabella really?
she sings the
Rossellini
Blue
sing
Velvet
the
song. She's like a torch singer, and
Yeah.
Frank sort of makes her do that, or that's where Frank saw her and fixated on her. He also kidnaps her husband and their kid, but they're off screen the entire time. So we never find out why he's done that. Maybe just to control her, so that she will sing to him every night, and she's a hostage to him too, something like that. There are Franks everywhere. I forgot there was another movie I saw last week, but it was so unmemorable I had already forgotten it until I looked on my calendar this morning. Like, oh yeah. So I probably don't need to get too much into it. It was called Opus, and I
Don't
went
know
to
it.
yeah. I had seen one preview for it where it's like John Malkovich plays a famous musician who sort of disappeared for 30 years and now is going to come out with a new album. But since then, he's built a compound and started a cult that just sort of worships him. And they have some sort of Scientology like thing that they're all into. And a journalist from a rock music magazine gets invited there. She doesn't even know why, just to witness this weekend. And it starts out, you think it's going to be a comedy, and then it turns into like a thing where suddenly people start getting murdered, and Malkovich turns out to be this villain, and he's doing this on purpose. But they withhold at a crucial moment, like, okay, now that he's dropped the mask and he's going to kill everybody, we need to know why he's doing this. Did he have a
Hmm.
particular grudge against the people that he invited besides the journalist? One of them has they used to know each other. He made fun of him once. Okay, but there's like at least two more people dying that it's not explained. And at that point, I lost faith in the movie. I'm like, I need to know. If I'm going to go on the rest of this ride, I need to know what the deal is. And it went
Yeah.
another like 30 minutes all the way through, the journalist escaping, coming back with cops. Malkovich goes to jail. Then there's like a 5 years later. I'm like, oh, I hate the 5 years later title cards. Maybe it was 2 years. She visits him in jail, and then he explains why he sort of killed everyone. Although he only killed 5 people, he only explains 4 of them. So I'm still like, you still didn't say why he killed her. What did she do? So I found it very unsatisfying, and as soon as I left, it just like left my head, and I'd forgotten that I
Well, maybe you have to go 7 years later to get that last
to
story.
get that last story. I mean, ultimately, he said, yeah, and it ended up being this simple explanation of like, yeah, this cult-like religion I have, we want to take over the world, and the way to do it was to do something splashy and weird, and now you've written a book about it, and your book is going to spread it to everybody else that I need it spread to, which is like, okay, this was a movie. Single writer and director, which I find interesting. I'm like, okay, this is one guy's total idea. And I
Right.
looked him up, and His one other thing is like a 15-minute short film from like 7
Oh,
years
so this
ago.
is his
So
first feature.
this was his first feature, and he got a lot of good. The hotel manager from season 1 of White Lotus was in it.
Oh yeah.
Playing a completely different character, but I'm like, oh well, I like him as an actor. He's one of the guys that gets killed, unfortunately. But yeah, so that's Opus. I would not recommend anyone see that movie. Now that I've
Okay.
explained it, just don't waste your time. Tonight, I've got a ticket to go see Wild at Heart, the David Lynch movie he made after Blue Velvet.
So are they doing?
Yeah,
they
it's
doing a
when he
series of
died,
Lynch
they
films?
programmed all, but you have to, like, the tickets go real quick. So I was lucky to get both of these tickets. Um,
That's the one with Nick Cage, isn't it?
yes,
And Laura Dern.
yes, and he's kind of doing an Elvis thing, and
Yeah, I'm not sure I like that one very much.
I,
I got bored with it actually.
I'm not. I don't know what to expect. I really think I've only seen it once, and it was the year it came out. I was in college then when it came out, 1990, I guess. And the college had this huge auditorium, and every Sunday night they would have Flicks Night and show a film to, I don't know, like 3,000 of us.
Wow.
It was a huge, huge place to see movies. But I remember seeing Wild at Heart there, and I remember thinking I remember laughing at like the very first scene. Nick Cage does something incredibly violent, like cracks a guy's head open, beating his head onto the cement, and his brains spill out. And it was so sudden and violent out of nowhere. In film classes, I've been seeing things like the Andalusian Dog, where they slit the cow's eye and it looks and it freaks you out. So my brain was like able to take horrible things. It's like it's the equivalent of a cast iron stomach where you can eat anything. At that point in my life, I could watch anything. I'll watch it. And so I laughed. No one else laughed. I laughed. My friends were like, "What's funny?" I'm like, "Well, it's kind of extreme. That's why it's funny." But then it turns out,
and it's out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere, you don't even know who the characters are yet.
Yeah.
And then I kind of remember it being kind of a long, weird road trip. I remember Diane Lane's mother is in it, and she smears lipstick all over her face violently at one point. These are the only images I remember. And Willem Dafoe shows up near the end with like weird teeth and a violent kind of nature. I don't know. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. I may not like it, but I'm looking forward to seeing it again on a screen for the first time in like 35 years or something like that. Just to say I did, just to remind myself what it is.
I didn't like it, so I didn't remember it much. I remembered Blue Velvet.
Yeah.
I remember Mulholland Drive. I remember the other one you mentioned. What was the one that you mentioned that reminded me of Mulholland Drive?
Jeez. You want me to remember 10 minutes ago?
I know, it's unfair. That's fair.
Golly.
But,
what's the Lost Highway?
Well, I guess I can't say I
Highway.
remember it because I can't remember it.
Bill Pullman sort of turns into Balthazar Getty and then back again, and Patricia Arquette turns into a brunette and then a blonde and then back to a brunette again. And then it turns out maybe he's dead the whole time. It's kind of compelling but weird and hard to explain while you're watching it, and looks like he almost like had two different movies he was trying to do and kind of fused them together or something.
Well, our friend Alan Ray said something the other day that I thought kind of made sense. He said, there are some movies that you watch that they intend it to make sense, so it should make sense. And he said, other movies you watch, they're just about the experience of it, and they're not going to make sense, and you shouldn't be mad because they don't make sense. Yeah. And I went, oh.
Your brain's doing all these contortions to try and get the sense out of it, but really just... So yeah, Lost Highway and Mulholland Drive are kind of like that.
Yes.
I don't have much to say about the world of politics, although I was annoyed because... Okay, so the judge reinstated the fired probationary workers. which
I
is
was going to ask
good.
you about that. So what happened?
Uh, yeah, in fact, but on the eve of maybe, well, yeah, maybe the government was going to shut down. So the order was, yeah, if it shuts down, it. So many contradictory orders are coming in at once. You're fired. Okay, now you're rehired. In fact, you must go into the office. We order you to. This is now the directive where everyone has to show up. And not enough parking, not enough desks. So
Right.
and so they're like, yeah, because everyone is ordered to come back now, even though they wanted everyone to leave.
Right.
You're gonna have to like find parking on the street or something. And if the government shuts down, we still order you to come in and shut everything down or something like you got to come in anyway, even if there's nothing to do because the government isn't funded. Absolutely bizarre.
They're
And
just trying to make it nightmarish so you won't want to come
it
in.
is, and there are the people trying to like. We have to follow all these orders, even though they don't fit together and they don't make sense, and they're trying to be kind to their employees that are absolutely getting yanked around, and it feels so precarious. It's like, yeah, okay, maybe I'm going back to work this week, but it could change again. And what
Yeah.
really, I mean, Trump flew down for a Florida vacation this weekend, and there was press on the plane, and he pokes his head out of the door, and it's full of airplane noise. And someone said, "So, are you going to comply with the judge's order to rehire all the workers?" And he goes, "What? What's that? I haven't heard of that." And it's like, you haven't heard. All these people's lives are being played with, and he's not even paying attention.
Well,
Although
I think he's checked out. I don't think he's all there anyway.
5 seconds after admitting he didn't know what the question was even about, he said, "Oh, well, of course I've heard of that," to cover the fact of his own stupid ignorance. I mean, he's not even paying attention to what's going
Yeah.
on. And
Well, I think they don't care. I think the whole point is they're trying to break everything.
they're
They're trying to
trying,
destroy it. So you don't have to really care.
right?
You know, the fact of the thing that happened when Judge Boasberg said, "Okay, you can't deport these people," and he said it, and he ordered from the bench in a TRO, temporary restraining order. You can't. You're not allowed. And if the plane's taken off, they've got to turn around and come back. Okay. And he said that from the bench. He ruled from the bench. It was 6:30 ish, right?
Right.
ACLU, and they said, "Oh, sorry, Judge, plane's already in air. We couldn't recall them because apparently our radios all broke." So, well, they didn't say that, but I
No,
mean,
but yeah.
that's the implication. And so the ACLU says, "No, Judge, they knew exactly. Some of those planes didn't take off till 7:40,
Yeah.
over an hour after you made your ruling." So they don't care. They're going to do what they're going to do, and they're going to say, "Okay, we're going to do that.
Yeah.
We're going to do that."
What are you going to do about it? Make me. Make me.
Maybe exactly. You and what army?
This still does not excuse 10 Democratic senators voting for the
No,
CR bill.
no.
Uh, they only needed 7. They got 10. They got 3 extra ones. And everyone who's furious about this, well, I'm with you. This is making me crazy. Even the explanation, well, shutting down the government would be worse than that. No, but you didn't ask for anything. You didn't use that leverage to get anything. Like, don't cut
Right.
Medicare. Like, don't touch Social Security. Limit Elon's power. Something, because even there's something
Well,
in the bill to
and the
give
other thing
more
is,
power to him.
don't be complicit. The most important thing is, yes, that what you're saying may be true, but you're not complicit with it if you refuse to
Right.
refuse to
It'll
allow
be
it.
100% on
They are
them.
doing it. The onus is on them. They're going to blame you, and you say no. No, we're not going to play your game. We're not going to play with you. And then they do this thinking. I think part in the back of their head is they didn't want the public to go, "Oh, well, the Democrats shut down the government. They're bad." Well, the poll came out almost simultaneously. A poll came out, and I think it was, um, oh gosh, I can't remember if it was Quinnipiac or ORC, but one of those polls said they asked, "Do you want Democrats to try to get things done with Republicans or say no and oppose them. It's 60. It's like 23% to 67% say no.
Yeah. Don't play along.
So they're not
Stop
even
this.
reading the room. They're not even
What
reading
are they
the
reading?
vibe of their own people.
I mean, it's
They think it's not 2006 or something.
or something. It's not, man. It is not.
No, they're basically, the Republicans are basically sticking their thumb in their eye and uh, treating it like war, and you're not.
Right.
And guess who's going to win that fight?
Yeah. There was also maybe it was Media Matters. Like, here's what the internet media sphere looks like, and it's totally red dominated, just crushing. And I'm like, oh well, that's where it's coming from.
Yeah, pretty
All
much.
reinforcing each other and building each other up, and it's like there's just nothing on the. Yeah, I mean, and yet I
Well, I
know
will
there's.
say this for the Midas Touch Network. They are the largest network now. They're bigger than Rogan. They've got more monthly downloads than Rogan now. But they need 20 MTNs. They
Yeah.
need the Bulwark to be that big. They need the Lincoln Project to be that big. They need all those. They need Allison Gill's network. The what did she call hers? MSW. Mueller She Wrote
Oh.
Media. They need all of those to be the bulwark against, no pun intended,
Right.
the bulwark against the red wave media that it's got like a 4 to 5 year head start on them.
And
So-
they're more determined and brutal, I guess. Although,
And they have willing networks that will take up and amplify whatever they say in Fox News or Newsmax or OAN, right? They'll just be the little parrots and parrot it. And Jesse Waters actually just came out and said, "Yeah, they don't know what they're dealing with. We've got the New York Post, and we've got all those people on the right wing podcast being they say things, and then other people repeat it, and then it comes to us, and we repeat it, and before they even know what hit them, we've already overwhelmed them." So he just
said it.
What used to be the quiet part,
Right.
out loud.
I mean, we all
But
kind
that's
of
the idea.
knew that's how it worked, but to hear a guy in it say, "Oh yeah, isn't this fun? Look
That's
what we
we're
do."
doing.
All it takes is one
And-
person
and
to
you
say
can't
something
do
on
anything
Twitter,
about it.
and then now it's on Fox News, and millions have heard it and believe it before you even know what we're doing.
Right.
Har, 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 har. It's, yeah.
And then he laughed. He did laugh. Yeah.
He's having a good time.
I don't know if it was a moo-hoo ha-ha type laugh or just a normal dumbass Jesse
I can't
Waters
believe
laugh.
how much we're owning the libs. It tickles me pink.
That was good. I like
So
that.
these are frustrating because I mean there are passionate voices on the left. They have such a small piece of the airspace.
Yeah.
But the private
They're
conversations.
growing. I will say this: they're growing, but probably not fast enough for our taste. But they are growing.
They are.
So
They are.
I don't know what else to do
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah. It's just. We're not alone, but it's like, boy, they really do have a head start, and they're also
The
self-congratulatory.
People are not, but see, they're only reaching their own people at this point.
Mm.
They're not expanding.
Yeah.
The beachhead. In fact, everybody else, the people who didn't give a shit, now they're giving a shit,
Mhm.
and the people who opposed them are now vehemently opposed to them. So, well, here's a good example. The conservatives in Canada were cruising to a parliamentary majority. Well, maybe not a majority, but enough of a win that they could form a coalition with like-minded people and rule. That was only about, I think, 3 months ago. Labor had, I'm sorry, not Labor. They have the Liberal Party. The Liberal Party had 23% of the vote. back then. Now they're at 50. 3 months.
3 months. What a 3 months it's
And
been.
if I remember, the Conservative Party, which is oddly blue, and
Yeah.
liberals are red, they were at 46%, and now they're down to something like, I don't know, 32%. So it's been huge shift. 3 months. So what he's done is he's not only turned his own people against him, not his own people, but the United States people against him, the large majority of them. But he's turned everybody else against him.
Yeah.
And he's made heroes out of the people who oppose him. So it's like, okay, if you think that's winning, have at it.
Yeah, I think there's something good in the idea. This is where the global international nature of the internet helps, because all the other sane countries in the world can go, huh, and add their voices to the mix. So it's not just internal to America trying to do something. Hopefully, I don't know. I don't know how this.
Oh, and then I heard. I don't know if you heard this, Rob, but Peter Navarro, the so-called trade advisor, said, "Whoa, Canada, slow your roll. Why are you talking about like punching us in the face? We just want to negotiate." And they're all going, "No, that is not how you negotiate, by hitting us first and then get mad when we hit back."
Right.
No,
we want you to roll over.
Yeah, you were supposed to roll over and let us scratch your belly.
Maybe
or do something else to your belly.
They had some caricature of Canadians being wimps in their head or something, and
because they're nice.
Because they're nice.
See, they have that weird. Do they not realize that the Canadians invented hockey, one of the most violent sports?
Have you seen the hockey?
There is.
And the hockey fans.
Gordie Howe was the guy who invented the elbows up, right? Gloves come off, elbows up. We're coming over the boards. We're coming after you.
Did you ever see Slapshot, the Paul Newman?
I love Slapshot. I really love
those
that.
Two twin brothers.
And what was the name of the thug they played with? The guy who, the only reason they brought him on was to protect the actual talented player. So he was just there to be the meat and the muscle. I can't remember that, but it was fun. It was a fun hockey show.
Well, there's something about this hyper masculine projection that comes from MAGA that's masking all sorts of insecurity and weirdness.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, so this is one. This one woman. Oh, it's from the I've Had It ladies. Absolutely hammering J.D. Vance as being a closet drag queen, because here's a photo of him in drag and the eyeliner, and I thought, well, maybe you could get away with saying it's just the way his eyes look, but he just appeared at a press conference or something, overdid it. Like, this is clearly eye makeup that he's mascaraing on himself before he goes out in public, and she's like, he's this close to popping out with a full smoky eye. she's not even joking. She says, I swear, I've seen this guy. I can read him. He's got a whole bunch of stuff. He can't express it because he's in this MAGA world. It's gonna come popping out in some way. But his masculine posturing in that Zelensky encounter. Yeah. This is a guy who's not that big and tough, but he's constantly talking about, I don't know, being a real man and having children, and he does it in this way that's always kind of weird, like too much so.
Yeah, if you don't have to say it.
No.
Right? You don't. People who want to live that way, just live that way. You don't have to profess it. It's not. It doesn't make it better or more real. It just makes you look weird. Like you said, like our buddy Tim Waltz said, these guys are just intensely weird. There's something wrong with these people.
They've repressed too many feelings that they should just You know, look, of course,
just go with it.
Just go with it.
When he was
live
16
a healthy
and he
life.
told his grandma, yeah. When he was 16, he told his grandma, "I think I'm gay," and she goes, "No, you're not. Nobody in this family is gay."
Mm-hmm. Tim Miller has also been like hinting at this, and John Lovett, like they've been looking at him since the election was on and going, I've known some fellas like J.D. Vance before.
Yeah.
So I don't want to.
He's a latent homosexual.
Spread any rumors I don't know anything about. And I don't want to get a libel lawsuit against me for speculating about the smoking.
He's the one who wrote about that anecdote in his own book.
It's in his book.
Hillbilly Elegy.
Yeah.
So.
There you go. Okay, we'll just quote
I didn't
his
make
own
that
book.
Up. I just quoted.
I just quoted his own writing.
Him.
The danger that the repressed people do to people who just want to live their lives. That's the whole point. If the liberal progressive policies were running the world, people could just live whatever way they want. That's the way they whole wanted point. To. And leave everyone else the hell alone. That's all.
But this militancy on the people who want to stop other people's behavior, they can't explain why. Why does this affect you? This doesn't affect you. It offends me. I don't like it. It's against my religion. They said, well, okay, fine. But you're not doing it. Religion is a personal choice.
Right.
You don't get to impose that on other people. At least that's not my reading of the First Amendment. Mm-hmm. So why does this bug you so much? And all of them, they're just really, they're either performative about it because they know it bugs other people and they want to gain power, and that's one way to do it, or they really feel that way.
Yeah.
And if I had $1 for every time a Republican family values politician basically would rail against one thing. That's his kink. That's
his thing.
That's it.
It's always that guy.
Larry Craig.
Wide stance.
Any homosexual turned out to be Mr. Wide Stance.
It's like 100% of the time.
Yep. Larry Bitter, or not Larry Bitter, David Bitter in Louisiana. He was against pornography and call girls, and I went, he sees prostitutes
all the time.
Sure enough, he showed up on the DC Madams list, and his particular kink was to dress up in a diaper and be treated like a baby. Yes.
Oh no.
Yes.
Mommy. I got my eye on Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, too. He lives in a house with a bunch of other fellas, including a preacher who's just always on about sin and sex and homosexuality and like, oh boy.
And pornography.
He's
really against pornography, so he must be a porn hound.
Must be. The whole thing of having an app that monitors your...
you monitor me and I'll monitor you.
That is so creepy. You monitor me. What is that? Yeah.
No, I swear to God, it wouldn't be. If I made the prediction that back in high school or college he participated in a circle jerk, I don't think I'd be too far off. I bet you he did. I'm just going to lay that out there. I have no information that he did. But given his proclivity to be against that, and the fact
when it's on your mind,
they
somehow.
do what they're against. Yeah, because otherwise you got to ask yourself, why do you even care about that?
Yeah,
I mean, so what? If you don't do it, it doesn't affect you. Oh, you did do it, and you found God, so God would take the sin away. And now you got to do that for everybody else.
Yeah, the conversion therapy.
It's not good enough just to purify yourself.
Oh, God. And these guys are in power now. Yeah, I know. I mean, it's just so unhealthy.
Yeah, it is, and it's just so twisted. It's just like, what the hell do you care? everybody's in charge of it. If you really believe in the Christian principles, everybody is in charge of their own salvation and their own relationship with God / Jesus, and it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, mind your own business and don't be a hypocrite. It's a lot of words from Christ about don't being a hypocrite. He was big on that.
Oh, the other thing, Rob, I wish I had $1 for is every creepy youth minister who turned out to be a diddler.
Everyone.
Almost all the youth ministers. Why are they hanging out with the youth? Because they really want them really bad.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't just a Catholic Church thing. That's a Baptist thing, too. That's also...
that's what I'm saying. The non-denominational church, they're the ones that have the youth ministers. And, oh boy, steer clear of those people. And they're usually the creepiest people.
Yeah, you can actually get a vibe off them if you're paying any kind of attention. But fortunately, I didn't have anything like that in my life. But I was also not in a church in my life, so I... But, you know...
Well, I went through 12 years of Catholic schooling and never was even approached. But there was one priest who came into our parish as the associate priest. I forget what they called it. You had the one who ran the parish, and then we had a secondary priest. Give him a break on, so he didn't have to do 6 masses in the weekend. They could split him up a little bit. And this guy, when he had you in for confession, because confession's pretty perfunctory. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I laundry list of sins. I've made a good act of contrition, and I promise to try not to do this next time. Thank you, and please absolve me of my sins. And they're supposed to say, in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
5 Hail Marys and
Spirit, Holy Spirit, not Ghost. That's pre-Vatican. Anyway, that's pre-Vatican II. But anyway, they're supposed to do that. Well, he would stop you, and if you didn't admit to masturbation, he would then ask you, "Oh, come on, you must have masturbated."
Oh no!
Everybody does it. It's natural. And I think I'm in 4th grade. So how old are you in 4th grade?
9 or 10?
11?
No, okay. Under 11.
Somewhere around there. Okay. And I didn't even know what the word meant.
Right.
Honestly. I had to go find a dictionary and look it up. And it was an old enough dictionary that you know what the definition was? Self-abuse.
Oh boy.
It didn't even give you a truthful description of what it's about. It just said self-abuse. And I'm going, well, hell, I don't have to do that myself. Plenty of other people do that to me. So
they abuse me all the time. Those bullies. That's creepy. See, he's putting it in your head, too young for you to grasp it. And what do you think that does?
Exactly. And it was the talk of everything. All these other guys would say, "Yeah, did he ask you about masturbation and looking at dirty pictures and stuff like that?" And I went, "Yeah, he did." And other people like, "Yeah, he did that with me too." And so it got back to the parents, and then that got back to the head honcho at the parish, and the guy was gone next week. Now, to their credit, they actually took action. They sent him away. And word on the street was he went to the Diocese of Santa Fe, which at that time in the 70s, I believe this was 73, that was where they sent all their problem priests.
Yeah.
And they had a monastery kind of thing. They were behind the walls, and they weren't supposed to minister to people outside the walls, but they were supposed to try to cure them of whatever their proclivity was.
But it's just the idea.
I think the word on the street that's where he was, but they wouldn't admit that's where he was sent. He just was reassigned.
That institutionally, you have enough of a problem to set up a whole compound. Yep. And you got enough guys needing to be sent to have a whole structure in place.
Yep.
While not admitting there's any kind of thing going on, but you have these buildings,
Exactly.
you have these monasteries
It's
ready to
just a
go.
it's just a bad apple. He's just a bad apple. But I've always hated that illusion that he's just one bad apple, because the actual aphorism is one bad apple
Ruins the
ruins
whole.
the barrel,
Yes.
right?
It spreads to every other apple.
Exactly.
Man. Although sometimes there is a cycle of abuse where something happened to him when he
Yes.
was a young Catholic boy, and
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
it's
Almost all the Catholic priests, most of whom entered, uh, they say that was the problem with, you get infantilized in your sexuality. You
right.
don't get to a point where you be sexual as an adult. Therefore, you become infantilized in your sexuality. And there was one theory that was Michael Jackson's problem
Problem.
too,
Yeah.
because he was a pop star when he was 10 years old. And so you tend to be attracted to people of that age that you're infantilized about.
Right.
And so that's a theory anyway. I don't know.
Ah.
I don't know how much I buy into it, but that's what I've been
That's
told.
a theory, yes. Well, we know. I mean, he built himself his own private amusement park. The man was
Yep.
living a long
And
childhood.
invited kids.
Yep. Well,
Come to Neverland.
oh boy. Well, we've gotten into some controversial topics tonight. Like, we better stop now, or
We
we'll start
did.
talking about abortion or something like that. Let's not. Let's just have a nice chat. Any other
Okay.
movies I could talk about? Not really. Did you start watching season 3 of The White Lotus yet?
Yes.
Oh,
We're five episodes in,
I was
which is
waiting to
as
build
many
up
as you can be.
a bunch of episodes before I started in case I felt like binging them. So I'm about ready to start because I almost there was like a someone. Where was I looking? I was just looking in the news app, and it's like, see, episode 5 of White Lotus, something, something. I'm like, you're gonna spoil. I haven't started watching it yet. I better start watching, or I'm gonna go crazy because people are talking about it. All right, I'll get into
It
that.
almost does, but Mike White walks up to the brink but pulls back.
Okay. Okay.
In episode 5. So that's all I'm going to say.
All right.
But we had to binge 2 before we could feel that we could start 3.
Mm-hmm.
So we binged that first, and that truly was, we just watched it until
until it ran out.
Yeah, and that was really the Italian one was really good, and I love the complexity of the stories he can
Weave
wind
together.
into it.
Yeah.
So, and this one's like that too. It's like I was telling Virginia, I said we're always trying to figure out who the body that floats by in episode 1 is going to be, and he's got like 6 or 7 candidates, and they're strong candidates. Some people you wouldn't mind if they were the body, and other people you would rather not them be the body. So
Let's
typical of the show. It's like, and he's at 5, and he either is going through 8 episodes or 7. We can't figure it out.
Wow. Okay.
Because you go on IMDb and it says here's the release date for 3 weeks out from here, and this was 5, so that would make 8, wouldn't it? So we'll see. The first one was only 6. The second one was 7. And now this season is either 7 or 8.
Interesting.
I'm thinking maybe it's 8.
He's growing. You think he'd be getting run out of ideas, but no, he's like getting more of them as he goes. Alrighty, well, happy St. Patrick's Day. I guess I'll let you go and see you next time. Or, it's possible I will need a week off or something.
If you do, I do have rehearsal next week at 7, so we could either do it early or
I'll let you know. I'm already thinking, like, after 10 episodes, of like, yeah, a little bit of a break. Also, I need to, pay attention to other things like getting my car serviced and doing my taxes, and I definitely don't want to wait too long on that because they're firing IRS workers right at tax season. Good plan.
Yeah.
Well, they don't pay taxes, so they don't worry about it.
Exactly. If I know I'm getting money back, I always do it as fast as I can and get it filed, because then you'll get your money back as fast as possible. Right after I did that, they said, "Oh, now with all the firings," this was before we heard about all the firings that were going to go on, right? And so they said it may delay your
rebate,
your tax return rebate, yeah. And so I said, "Oh, I already got mine.
I'm done. I'm out of there.
I'm done."
Good work. All right. I will see you when I see you then. Bye-bye.
All right. Good talking to you.
How do I turn this off? I never remember. Okay, bye-bye.